Christopher Nolan's latest masterpiece of a film is upon us in the form of Oppenheimer. This is a biopic-style film focusing on the creation and use of the atomic bombs back in World War II. It's going to be a character study on Oppenheimer himself, the man behind the team that created this weapon of mass destruction. Now, the reviews are in. And if you're new here, hit subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff down below. This is the show where we review the reviews. Basically, I give you guys an overview of the best and worst critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. So you guys can decipher, along with me, if people are liking this movie and why or why not that is. We're gonna start with the worst reviews, okay? So let's dive in. Keep in mind, I'm only doing the synopsis of the reviews. I'm not gonna read 4 paragraphs each time. We're just gonna keep it surface level and see what the hype is all about or what people are maybe disappointed. So let's check this out. This is from Zach Lewis on July 19th. Opts for a cartoonish gravitas. The film is supposed to spell out the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. No, I mean the tragedy of Oppenheimer's career, but it does so loudly and literally. Any potential cleverness in Oppenheimer is ruined by the sophomoric instinct to announce and explain itself. I think this critic might be one of those too smart for average movie guys, and he's kind of like shitting upon the fact that Christopher Nolan is making this film more of a widely acceptable watch, despite being rated R, but I guess that's for us to find out. He's basically saying the film is dumber than it appears to be, or dumber than it wants to be, which is not a good sign, but for the masses, I think this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, hopefully. All right, next rotten review. Let's find the next rotten review here. To be honest, it's 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's actually hard to find the bad reviews. Okay, this one comes from Peter Martin. I felt like I was stuck in a classroom for 3 hours while a series of learned professors lectured me. Hectoring me? Is hectoring me a verb? How can you hector somebody? You gonna Jose me next? It's a terrible joke, but this review's awful as well. I think he means heckling. Heckling me for being stupid, unable to understand or grasp the meaning of a very important subject. It sounds like Christopher Nolan is just making this film accessible for all audiences, and that's fine with me. I don't care if it's big, stupid, yet still subtle. I think Christopher Nolan can make this film subtle and broad for the masses, and I think it's going to be a good film regardless of what Peter is hectoring on about here. Look, I'm rooting for the film, okay? Let's just say that. Fuck Peter. Well, I'm sure he's a nice guy, perhaps. So the next bad review for Oppenheimer we have, it comes from Mike Massey. There are virtually 3 different complete movies lurking within this ludicrously long piece, each exhibiting distinct genres and subjects, and each appearing inconsequential to the chapters that precede them. Out of order, of course. So this guy's talking about how Christopher Nolan's storytelling is a lot of times non-sequential, so it'll jump back and forth and go through different periods of the story by intercutting scenes that are more current and scenes that are more in the past, sort of to create a more sophisticated way of telling the story and revealing information that has more of an impact. I think this guy's just not down with the format of the storytelling, which is fine. He probably didn't like The Prestige either, because that's what The Prestige does as well. I'm kind of getting a Prestige vibe from his review in the way the film's kind of laid out, which to me is kind of awesome. So Mike Massey, I'm not with you on this one so far. Let's move on to the next bad review. All right, the next bad Oppenheimer review here from Christy Puco. Hopefully I don't puke reading this. My patience wore thin as the director gave in to one of his favorite indulgences, a bleeding soundscape. So the main headline of your review is the sound was bad? All right, Christy, what is that? We don't like that. Rotten review. See what else we have here. Matt Oakes. Another bad review on Oppenheimer here. While Oppenheimer does feature a few truly brilliant moments, they are often overshadowed by the excesses of the narrative, ultimately resulting in a rather tedious viewing experience. Okay, so they're saying he did too much. They're saying he does the most, which honestly, if you're a Nolan fanboy like myself, I think we're actually going to love that, and we're probably going to want more when we walk out of the theater. I mean, how often do you get a Nolan film? 3 hours of one as well? Come on, bring it on. Bring it on, Matt. Jesus. All right, let's find the next bad one here. Honestly, there's not a bad one on this whole page. Those were all the bad reviews. Wow. I guess we can go back, check out the good reviews. So only a few bad ones. Let's go to the top and read the good reviews now, since we do both sides here, and we'll finish off with the good news, the good reviews. So the first good review for Oppenheimer we have here comes from Brian Orndorff from Blu-ray.com. Nolan does his thing with the Endeavor, also making Oliver Stone... Let's start this over. Nolan does his thing with the Endeavor, also making an Oliver Stone film in a way, highlighting the sinister ways of scientific breakthroughs and the poundings of government conspirators, playing with time, color, and a boys' town-sized cast of actors. A little bit of a clunky review there, Brian, but we'll take the positivity. This is looking good. Okay, Tim Stevens from Wealth of Geeks. Another good Oppenheimer review here. Made up predominantly of men, literally almost entirely just men, talking, arguing, persuading, and sniping at each other in rooms large and small. The movie nonetheless feels sweeping and at times bludgeoning. This sounds like a bad review because he's trying to say it's too manly. But let's go back to 1942, whatever, World War II. It was mostly men running the show at the top. It wasn't a lot of women at the top of this hierarchy of war. They were mostly actually in factories and doing nursing jobs and stuff like that from what I can remember from my history lessons. So if you're trying to say he's not inclusive enough, he's being accurate to history, my guy. So kind of a mixed bag on your review there. You got to get better, Tim. Get better. Let's see. The next good review for Oppenheimer comes from Christian Olub from Entertainment Weekly. Though they may seem disparate, the many elements of Oppenheimer reflect and refract each other, like a bunch of atoms creating a chain reaction or a group of scientists building off each other's ideas to forge something new. What a poetic way to put it. Christian, that might be the best review we've read all day. So thank you for that. Thank you. All right, next good review for Oppenheimer, Paul Whitington from the Irish Independent. Oh, how fitting. An Irish reviewer. I don't know if that accent was any good. Anyways, Cillian Murphy gives us a tragic protagonist of Shakespearean proportions. Not so much Prometheus as Icarus, a thin-skinned, tortured man whose ambition was his worst enemy. Kind of give like some Wolf of Wall Street vibes there, flying too close to the sun, getting a little too overzealous. But imagine like a depressed Wolf of Wall Street. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe this is Christopher Nolan's World War II, the Wolf of World War II, Good review, Paul. Keep me hyped. All right, this one comes from Leonard Maltin from Top Critic, or he's a top critic. He's a top critic. LeonardMaltin.com. He's got his own website. So this is a good review for Oppenheimer here. For all we learn about the creation and execution of the atomic bomb and its aftermath, the story could and should be told in a more digestible form. Instead, we have an overlong narrative that isn't revelatory or surprising. Sounds like you didn't like the film. Why is this listed as a good review? I hate that when they open up their review with not liking it, but it still says they liked it. Leonard, you're not a top critic in my opinion. Bottom critic. Sorry, dude. All right, another top critic writing in a positive review for Oppenheimer here. Tomris Lafley from The Wrap. What a name. Elevated by Cillian Murphy's exacting performance, Nolan's biopic on the father of the atomic bomb is majestic and morally complex. This is what we wanted. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the stuff. This is the stuff right here. Tomris Lafley. I'm not laughing. I'm excited. Okay. Another top critic positive review for Oppenheimer here. Esser Zuckerman from Bloomberg News. This is dense material that's thoroughly engrossing and by its end shattering. Wow. What a vague yet enticing review. Okay. Nothing much to say about that, but let's move on to the next review here. This positive review for Oppenheimer comes from Moira McDonald from the Seattle Times. Murphy's eerily handsome face, made up of angles and shadows and eyes that always seem to be telling a story that's different from the one he's speaking, is the film's foundation, and his layered performance is its anchor. It's sounding like we have a masterpiece of a performance, despite what people are saying about the actual movie itself. People are reeling at the performance from Cillian Murphy. So this is very, very enticing. I do love this. I do love reading these. Okay, this one comes from Jim Lagzowski, Directors Club. Oppenheimer is a dense film with many layers, lots of profound thought. It delves deep and considers the macro level consequences, as well as the effect it has on one fragile but brilliant mind. The cast is superb, and I won't soon forget the experience. This is the juice right here from Jim. I'm loving it, Despite this film being the opposite of McDonald's, highest of quality, of course. I'm loving it. Let's do one more positive review to wrap off this video. And then you guys can tell me in the comments if you've seen it. Let me know what you thought about it. If you haven't seen it, let me know which side you're on, positive or negative, compared to these reviews, or reacting to these reviews maybe. Okay, we have here. Who else do we have here? Robert Koger from the Flickering Myth. Another positive review for Oppenheimer here. He says, plays like a chain reaction, bouncing between past and present, actions and consequences. This is a blistering piece of filmmaking that's only flaws are small shortcomings from its gargantuan ambition. So it sounds like, even from the negative and positive reviews, it sounds like maybe Nolan did bite off a little more than he could chew, but still delivered somewhat of a masterpiece, which honestly I'm okay with, because people thought Dunkirk wasn't a masterpiece, but I did. People thought Tenet wasn't a masterpiece. I didn't either, but it was still fun to watch. Regardless, you get a great experience watching almost any Christopher Nolan, if not every Christopher Nolan film. So based on these reviews, guys, not many negatives, obviously. There hasn't been many negatives for a majority of his filmography, But I digress. Based on these reviews, I'm still hyped. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments below. Like, subscribe, turn those noties on, and I'll see you on the next video. Love you guys, 3000.